watching Procrastinate with Books. Now, with 2022 actually coming to a pass, it's officially that time of the year when you actually look back and contemplate what have I been done this year so far. And on that note, I was just reviewing what are the number of books that I have actually read this year. And as per Goodreads, my official goal was to read around 76 books this year, which was basically decided by the fact that I read actually around 75 books last year. So that was that, and I'm happy to share that I actually overachieved it. And so far, I have read around 115 books. By that, I hope you all are actually able to understand the level of difficulty I must have faced for selecting the top 10. Now, honestly speaking, selecting the top 20 was still okay for me, but the top 10, the effort was genuinely immensely strenuous for me. So without any further ado, let's swipe into the list. On number 10, we have The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Now let me just start off by saying that I personally did not anticipate this book to come in my best reads, forget the top 10, but it has been a surprise kind of a situation for me, especially my reading experience after Malibu Rising. And honestly speaking, I also did give other books by this author a try, but it wasn't my cup of tea. You know, I'm speaking about Daisy Jones and the Six, but it wasn't that well. This book, however, has made it to the exceptional list for me. Now, the favorite part for me about this book was that I loved each and every part of this book and not some its and bits here and there. So that was a great yay for me situation. And apart from this book also gives you a great depth insight into the main character's personality, what kind of a person she is, the way she behaves so proudly around each and every aspect of herself, be it her personality, life, or the choices that she has actually made throughout. And another great part that I liked about this book was that it showcases her facing all those things that she has decided for herself, be it the positive sides or the negative sides, and accepting them with great valor and this confidence that she has in herself. Now, often what happens is people are so delusional of their own personalities that they wouldn't even recognize their own inner self, and that leads to a lot of complications, thought processes, etc. But how the main protagonist in this book actually embraces herself has given me such a kind of a confidence and another way of looking at things and people, especially that if you embrace your inner self, oh boy or girl, there's no stopping you about from there. On number 9 is Disconnected by Emma Gannon. This is another surprise for you and for me. It's a non-fiction book. So for the lovers of non-fiction looking out to try something new after Atomic Habits, I think this would be the one for you. It's actually pretty brief read of 192 pages, which is basically jam-packed with a lot of actionable insights. Now, the good part about this book is after each chapter or a significant portion, there are these actionable prompts that you can use to actually implement those things in your real life. And the best way to do this is actually, once you start reading this book, go slow with it and start implementing things in your real life using those prompts, and then you will actually be able to see the overall difference. Now, what this book is basically about, it's actually about showcasing humans, how we are being so dependent around the e-technology, basically the internet world, be it social media or any other things in our day-to-day life. Now, in my case, there were two clear takeaways. One, what are the things that I don't want to do anymore, which I'll be stopping? And second, what new things would I be trying instead of that to make my life more productive? I'm also thinking of doing a detailed video around this book that will be mentioning the key takeaways or the prompts from this book that you will be able to apply in your real life. So do let me know if you want to include that as well. I'll do a spoiler video for that. Number 8, we have Book Lovers by Emily Henry. Now, this book is not something very intense, so if you're looking for something light, a bit romantic, and on the concepts of books around books, then this would be the fit for you. I would describe this book as a popcorn to the movie night that we do at home. It's cozy, it's light, and it's fun to read. Now, the plot of the book is actually around a female protagonist who basically works as a book agent, fully devoted to her work, and also can be called as Devil from the Devil Wears Prada or Cruella. She's basically quite business oriented, focused, and authoritative, and damn good in all her undertakings. Contrastingly, her love life seems to be suffering from that and looks like a passenger ferry to me. Everyone takes, but no one really wants to stay there. They all just want to be on board to reach their final destination. On the sidelines, her sister actually convinces her to go to a small town trip for a change and get their monochromatic New Yorker lives out of their system. Halfway through the book, you may get to already know what's going to happen, but you anyway stay rooted for it, and the ending is a little sweet, a little salty, so you will definitely enjoy it. Now, honestly speaking, how can we even think about doing best books of the year video without including any witchy books, especially on my channel? So next on the line, we have The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. Now, this could be one of the most recommended books on my channel because I have already done a detailed review about this book, which I'll be linking up here somewhere, and you can check that out. And apart from that, this book has been like on my top 5 witcher books of the year, top 10 books of the year, and maybe few other lists as well where it would be popping here and there. So you must be understanding how important it is for me to make you guys read this. On number 6, we have The Traveling Cat Chronicles by Hiro Arikawa. This book is actually a magical realism slash a little bit of fantasy into the real life of humans and pets. The book is told from two different perspectives, a human and a cat perspective. So Satoru one day actually finds a male cat and starts caring for him and names him Nana. With time, incidents and other different things flowing through, they get quite close to each other and start being caring towards each other. And there starts the journey of Satoru and Nana. I haven't actually read many of the books where Cat is a main protagonist, so this was quite a different read for me personally. And there were different reasons that I have noted that made me fall in love with this book that I'll be sharing with you guys. So firstly, the relationship building between both human and the cat's behavior has been shown in such a detailed way that you wouldn't be missing any kind of event. Secondly, when they're actually house hunting for another place where Nana could live once Satoru goes away, they actually come face to face with the reality that a perfect pair like Satoru and Nana wouldn't be existing elsewhere, and it also parallelly showcases different human behaviors, how people actually behave in front of pets, in front of stray animals, and even person to person. The third was actually an eye opener for me around how cats basically want themselves to be perceived by humans as someone intellectual and not just some furry cozy thing to play around with always. They actually want us to perceive them as smart and choosy animals. And the final thing that I actually liked about this was how author did not leave things at the end at just how the story was supposed to end. He went an extra mile by giving us that extra last chapter. Some people also include those things in epilogue where things of the aftermath is shown into the picture. How basically after the tragic end that was supposed to happen right from the beginning of the book, when that happens, even after that, how the cat actually carries on with his life, that part is showcased. Next on the list, we have It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, which is depicted as a romance novel, but to me is a mental trauma, how to save yourself novel, and I'll share the details below. But first things first, content alert, mental trauma, physical abuse, toxic relationships. Expect these all with an open mind, and then you will be okay to read this book ahead. Not so much as a love story, this book actually shows the journey of Lily, how she basically grows up to be a woman and decides to be a florist, which is very controversial to her name, Lily Bloom. And she's just going all out with her heart on her sleeve. And then she meets Ryle, and they both somehow have a past traumatic life experiences. And when they both end up being together, effects of their past traumatic life start showing in their own relationships, and that's where things take turn. Which to me basically reveals how things that you witness in your own life, be it just seeing them or experiencing them firsthand, actually shape your own personality and the version of you that you are. Be it physical abuse or even happy moments, death, life, toxicity that can be defining the level that you will be able to bear everything. And there's this actually great line that I have borrowed from the book, which showcases different aspect of where you exactly need to draw the line. We all have a line, But if we let ourselves go through too much, we just keep pushing that line forward and forward. And before we even know, we have actually lost sight of how far we have come and let things be escalated. And when I actually finished this book, I was literally sitting with my head on my hands and thinking, what did I just read? Because it was too much for my brain to process. The last few chapters, especially, are so intense. It will create a buzz effect in your head, and you wouldn't be able to absorb a lot of it. But there's just too much going on, and particularly for me, I was, you know how you all root for a happily ever after, but in a book like this, sadly, that won't come true, and you just know that that's not going to be it, and yet you somehow correlate with the author's feeling of why they ended a book in a certain direction that they did, and you also understand that it's right, but it's not just happy. That's how it feels. Next up on the list, we have Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. This is a magical realism book about a cafe set up in down alleys of Japan where people actually go to visit their past or future lives. And then you basically have the concept of sitting in a particular place and having coffee, and then you're automatically transported to different timelines basically. And the only rule here is to come back before the coffee gets cold. And the stories of different people who actually do this experiment are listed down in the book as their own experiences, and that's what makes it a very novel and emotional read. So, quick few stats about the book. The plot is very clearly defined, the characters are to be loved, and despite its short length, it's quite well described, which was an awe moment for me, because if the book is so short, the description would be compromised, but it was not the case in this book. The pure reason for rating this a 5 out of 5 star was the level of emotional attachment the stories build up, not just with the people in the book but also with the cafe. Is so much that you just won't be able to resist, and I'm so looking forward to read the next two parts that are out there already in the market. So on number 3, we have Imaginable by Jane McGonigal. This is an amazing non-fiction that gives you the opportunity to explore all possibilities. And the great part about this book is, though it's a non-fiction, it's almost close to fantasy, so close that I loved it while reading it. Now, usually books in this category would be quite stuck to ground level, but this is not the case with this book, and that's why it's made it to number 3. The book actually shares with you how a group of people were brought in together to do certain experiments wherein they were given some virtual situations around which they would be living in, and they were asked to live in that particular situation. And then later on, few years down the line, COVID happened and similar situations were brought in front of people, and everybody was facing challenges except those few selected set of people who had already experienced those situations in the experiment that they were carrying on as a part of a survey, and they were able to cope up with these situations in a much better fashion compared to the normal people who were experiencing this for the first time. So that's just showing us how our human brain actually focuses and tries to behave to a novel thing in comparison to a thing that we have already historically witnessed. What's great about this book? Firstly, the concept of 10-year timeline that you will be able to witness, and then also the way you wake up, the mindset that you are in, being in the right state of mind, how important that is, and going from minimum to maximum arena, and the level of depth that is actually shared from an industry point of view, be it from the game designing industry or the future forecasting world, that is quite knowledgeable for people like me. It was a new thing to get to witness such scenarios. And the good part is, just like the Disconnected book, this book also has certain exercises and scenarios mentioned for you guys to try on to check and see how you would be performing if you are kept under such tests or surveys. Number 2, we have The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang, which is the first book in the Poppy War trilogy. The plot of the book actually revolves around Rin, who is the female protagonist, and she was a war orphan living in south of the country with her guardians. Now, to escape her reality, she decides to prepare for the toughest exam in the country, and to her and others' surprise, she actually qualifies it. But life at Senegal doesn't get any easier for her, which is the elite military school over there where she qualified for. She's constantly being reminded of her background, her social status, and even her dark skin. And as if that wasn't already enough, she's pretty years behind in terms of training, especially in the fighting techniques that others are well capable of. After years of training at Senegard, her hidden strength comes into light that she is not just an ordinary orphan, but she is a shaman, and somehow she is also connected to the fire goddess. And while these people are in training, the enemies of Nikara Empire, basically the Federation, are coming back into the light, and the clock is ticking for the third Poppy War. My personal part, the epic fantasy building, Chinese empire, landscape it mentioned, military, mythological powers, characters, gods and goddesses was already overwhelming. But the book has so much more to offer to you guys. But I would recommend please take your time with this one because it is quite dense, heavy, and also quite chunky. So give this a little time to absorb. And we have finally made it to number one. Do you have any guesses? On number one, we have Gallant by V.E. Schwab. The story is about a girl named Olivia Pryor who has been spending all her days since her childhood at a girls' school, and one day she receives a letter calling her back home to Gallant, and that's where things takes turn. She so desperately wanted to have a home and escape the overall life of Maryland's girls' school that she immediately rushes off to the new place only to understand that she's not very welcome over there. I have a detailed review already mentioned on my channel, so I will link that out for you guys. You can check that somewhere over here. And that, my friends, would be all from my top 10 reads of this year. Do let me know in the comments down below if you have found some common allies over here that were also your favorites. And I'll see you in my next video. Until then, keep your coffee strong and your TBR strong. Goodbye.